So a long, long time ago, I did a speakdom where I talked about how to build confidence, and that video is over on my Geekdom 101 channel, and I'll leave a link to that video because I think everybody out there needs to watch that video. But to summarize it, I pretty much stated in that video, and I made that a while back, that the trick to build confidence is to win at things. Basically make yourself into a winner. Even if the victory in your life has nothing to do with what you're trying to achieve, it still will increase your confidence. And I stand by that completely. What I wanted to do is I wanted to revisit that topic here, and I wanted to talk about something. I wanted to give you guys, I guess, a little exercise or a little, a little confidence booster, a little idea for you to try. Now, in the last speakdom that I did, I talked about girls not liking nice guys, and there were several comments in there about guys needing help with their confidence, which is a very, very common problem, and it's something that a lot of people deal with, and women do too. It goes both ways, but that video was mostly tailored towards men. This one can go. This is a unisex video. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You might get something out of this. At least I hope that you do. But okay. So in the old video, I talked about being confident, and the thing about being confident is a lot of these self-help books, not just relationship books, but also like books about just overall living and increasing the human condition, talk about, just be confident. Like, there are so many dating gurus and so many guys who just always tell guys, be confident, be confident, be confident. And it's true. There is truth to that. A confident man, in many cases, is very attractive to women. And the fact is, in my lifetime, I have seen very, very frequently, if not every time, I have seen a confident man who is not as attractive as a big muscular man be more successful in the dating scene. I've seen fat guys, fat bald guys pulling models. I've seen this with my own eyes, dude. And then I've seen big gym rats with muscles crash and burn. And a lot of times it's because those gym rats exhibit fake confidence built upon what they've done in the gym. And yes, going to the gym and getting a good body is a good thing. You should be proud of it. But if you come off like it's fake and you're trying to compensate for something, attractive women, mature women who aren't, young and immature, in general, again, will usually not fall for that. It's one of those things where the confident, ugly guy will always win. Well, not always. Most of the time will win over the buff guy who's kind of a pussy. Now, a lot of people out there, like I said, are, well, how do I build up my confidence? Well, first of all, you got to watch that other video, which I will link to after you get done with this one. So what I've seen happen is that a lot of guys will understand when they are told to be more confident, and what they'll do is they'll kind of nod their head and kind of try to understand. And what ends up happening is they exhibit what's called fake confidence, where they'll go out there and they'll have this sort of cocky, fake demeanor about themselves and kind of act like they're God's gift to women. And what ends up happening is the mature women will see right through it, like I said before. And the thing is, that could work. I've seen a lot of guys actually begin using the fake confidence, and eventually, over time, they build up real confidence. And that's the thing about confidence that I want to really talk about, is that confidence is not something that's like a light switch where you can just become confident out of nowhere. Confidence needs to be built. That's why, it's literally like when you hear somebody say building your confidence, that's actually a literal term here. You have to build it, like building a house or building Legos or whatever. You have to set the foundation and then build upon it and let it grow. And this could take a while. Like, this could take several months. It could even take several years. In fact, for most of us, it will take several years, by having life sort of course correct itself, so that you go through life and you go through pain and suffering and you learn from it, you get better. You learn from it, you get better. Then you succeed, you get more confidence, more success, and it just comes to you. But there are certain ways to kind of make things better. And I feel there are ways to, I suppose, speed up the process. Now, obviously, this won't work for everybody, but I want you to try this, okay? The most important thing, I think, when it comes to being attractive to the opposite sex, or just in life, even to getting a job or whatever, is to be confident. That's what I think, and to be yourself. Now, a lot of us aren't comfortable with who we are, where, we don't like who we are. Sometimes we think that we're too fat, too tall, too skinny, too short, too nerdy. And what's funny is that we sometimes think this about ourselves, and we create this false fantasy that the girl that we like thinks the same way about us, and that may not be the case, dude. And that's the trippy part. This is a kind of a mind fuck when I first discovered this. I could sit there and I could look at myself in the mirror and say, damn, dude, like, I'm not that attractive. Like, I'm fat, or I'm too tall, or whatever. We all do it, right? And then what might surprise you is that the girl that falls for you, or the girl that has feelings for you, is attracted to you, whatever you want to say, she doesn't think that way at all. She doesn't think you're fat. She doesn't think you're tall. She doesn't think you're ugly. Something about you has triggered her into liking you. And I think sometimes we sabotage our own relationships and our own potential for relationships because we create this false sense of toxic shame is really what it's called. I've heard it called toxic shame in the past, where you pretty much create this fake persona of yourself, but not in a good way, in a bad way. Like, you pretty much just cut your own balls off, if that makes sense. So you really have to try to not do that. And another thing that I want to talk about before we get to the little exercise here is that a big thing that people fuck up with, they think that the more money they make, the more confident they are. When I can tell you firsthand, I've talked to a lot of very successful people who make way more money than I do or anybody else. I've talked to guys who make six-figure incomes and have done it for years, and they freeze up, and they don't have any real confidence when it comes to women. However, what they do have confidence in is business. I've noticed that a lot, that some of these dudes are so cutthroat in business and so savvy, but yet something makes them freeze up. So that means that the principle of being a winner doesn't always apply, so you have to go to the next level. So here's what I want you to do. Okay? Think real hard about this and think real deeply about what I'm about to tell you, okay? Understand that, and this goes back to that toxic shame thing I talked about a minute ago, our brains are naturally wired to focus on negativity. This was talked about in The Matrix, in the second one, where the architect tells Neo that he created a perfect matrix, a utopia, and the human brain will reject it. It's kind of a trippy thing to think about, but there is no such thing as infinite happiness. It doesn't exist. Happiness is a myth. You can be content, you can be happy sometimes, but you can't sit there and just be happy and not expect something bad to happen to you. Maybe you'll get into a car accident, you'll lose your wallet, who knows? Bad stuff happens all the time. So there's no such thing as being happy all the time. That's impossible. But the reason for that is because our brain is naturally wired for dissatisfaction, meaning that even if you have $100,000 in the bank, or even $1 million in the bank, and you've got a nice car and a nice house, you have a little bit of paranoia sometimes about losing it. Like, oh, am I going to have this forever? Maybe you worry about your health. In other words, we can never be 100% happy. That's just how we're wired. But here's where it works. And by the way, the reason for that is because we're wired to survive. Like, as human beings, we are wired through Mother Nature to survive, and as a result of us surviving, we have defense mechanisms that are there to protect us from losing our money, losing our, losing our jobs. We have that paranoia because when you have a fear, understand, when you are afraid of something, that's just your defense mechanism and your survival instinct kicking up. If some dude is about to mug you, you have every right in the world to be afraid, because it's your life, it's your money, it's your clothing, it's whatever you have the guy could take from you, your car keys. You have a right to be afraid, and that's part of surviving. But here's what you have to remember. Because your brain is always wired for negativity, you have to sort of reprogram your brain. And this could take years, and it takes time, and you're always going to have relapses. This is not a permanent thing because we cannot escape our own biology. But what you can do is this. Here's what I want you to do. Is I want you to sit down, and I want you to get a piece of paper and a pencil, or on your notepad on your computer, whatever you want. I want you to write down 10 things about yourself that you like. Write down 10 things about yourself that you think you bring to the world. And I don't want you to bullshit yourself. I don't want you to, In fact, if you want to write them in the comment section, I'd be more than willing to look at them. Don't lie to yourself. Don't sit there and make believe and talk about the future. Seriously, sit down and write down 10 things you like about yourself. And it could be minuscule stuff. It could even be things like, I'm really good at cooking fries at McDonald's. It could be anything. You see what I'm saying? Just things that you feel that you are skilled at, or things that you bring to the world that you are proud of. And I want you to write that down, and then I want you to write 5 things that you are appreciative of. After that, I'm appreciative that my parents are alive, or I'm really lucky that I'm healthy and don't have any diseases. I'm healthy that I have a good, or I'm lucky I have a good job. Write that down and think about it, and just trust me on this one. Think about it and read it to yourself every couple of days. The idea here is that you have to sort of trick your brain or change your brain pattern into not being dissatisfied and thinking about what you don't have, and more so being blessed and thankful for what you do have. You have to remember the good things that you have and that you bring to the table. And I assure you, if you do this over and over again, you're going to build up your own confidence to where when it's time to ask the girl out or to get her number, you're going to think in your own head, I'm going to ask her out, I'm going to get her number, and if she rejects me, it's her loss. She's missing out on this wonderful person who has all these 10 things that he brings to the world, and she's going to miss out. And at the end of the day, if she does miss out, she's not going to realize it because you might just not be her type, or she's not going to be attracted to you anyway, so why even fight it? But it's just a trick so that your brain and you can become content with the rejection, and content with, who you are as a person. And you have to always remember that if you do get rejected, there's always going to be somebody else out there for you. There are billions of people on Earth, dude. Billions, dude. And the idea of you sitting there and saying, oh, there's nobody like this girl. You might be right, but I assure you that out there's probably somebody like her, if not better. You got to remember that. You have to remember that. And the trippy thing about it is that the fact that we're dissatisfied all the time, that's kind of what motivates us to read, and what probably motivated you to even click this fucking video. That's how deep it is. And if you can use that dissatisfaction and that negativity and turn it into a positive and say, yeah, I'm not confident right now, but if you keep reading those 15 things that you write to yourself and you continue to do it, you're going to feel like $1 million. You're going to feel like, you know what, I'm special. I can give something to the world and to that lucky lady out there, or that lucky guy, if you're a girl, or if you're, alternative lifestyle, whatever, the person, you have something to offer. And you have to remember that. And that's a little exercise that works. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, if you want to do something more than that, like I said, 10 things you like about yourself, 5 things you're lucky about, and then I want you to write 5 things that you, if you're talking about a specific girl or a specific person or a specific situation, I want you to write 5 reasons as to why you think she would like you. Now, she might not give a shit about any of these things, but it's still an extra confidence builder. And remember that. Tape it to your car door, put it in your phone, glue it to your, or not glue it, put it on a sticky note on your monitor and read it to yourself, and remember and never forget that you are a special person, and no matter what, you bring something to the world. You do. And remember that. And I assure you that your confidence will go up, because as long as you remember that, as long as you always remember that we're all unique and that you have something to offer to the world, and writing it down is a clear and easy way to do it. There's like a mental thing where if you write something down versus like just thinking it or saying it, and you should say it, but still, writing it down, having the electricity go from your brain down your arm to your finger to the pen, just adds more value. Or to the computer if you're typing it up. But I prefer handwritten because it just feels more, more old school, more natural. Do that. Let me know how it works out for you. And I'll see you guys later. And good luck with everything.